Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to be doing the final ultimate modification on an Arcade1up. This is going to be the most craziest thing I've ever done. I've been doing all kinds of modifications on these Arcade1up machines and I can tell you that I just love these devices. However, out of the box they are very limited. I mean, when it comes to the controls, they're like, okay, but not like so super enjoyable. Where I just love this plug and play situation. These things don't take up a lot of room, so you can put them in a corner. But I just wanted to upgrade this device. I want to upgrade it, make myself the ultimate Arcade1up machine, to make this crazy thing I never did before. And that's what we're going to be doing. I'm just bringing you with me on this crazy adventure. I hope you really enjoyed, so consider subscribing and hit the little bell, because I already did more of these modifications with a Pi, Pandora's box, or just a PC in the inside. And man, I love modifying these devices. We're also going to be doing a little bit of fixing on the outside, where just the sticker has been damaged. So the display did have like a dead pixel that don't really notice anymore. There it is. And I'm just going to be leaving it as it is, because I think if I'm going to be getting myself a replacement monitor when it comes to the Arcade1up series, it's going to be same kind of shenanigans of some other problems. So maybe in the future we can actually upgrade the monitor itself, but that's going to be absolutely a premium solution and not cheap, because I need to import them outside of the European Union. So I'm going to be just using actually the original monitor in this build. So let's go. So what I wanted to do is make this a plug and play very easy to use retro cabinet. So I went for the Pandora's box stand. So what I needed to do is get myself the converter cable, and the converter itself, what you need to take consideration if you're going to be ordering, then is you're going to be having the right one, because this is the first generation of, let's say, the Arcade1up series, and the later ones they'll have like a different monitor. We're going to be implementing the sensors. This is the older kit of the retro shooter with the two sensors. It's so much more convenient. Going to be modifying and putting them over here in the corner so they look very nicely. I think this is absolutely a very great way. I actually made them a little bit shorter, because the original one was absolutely massive, because you're going to be normally putting that on top of a monitor. But I did see some people doing that, but it's absolutely ugly, and this looks absolutely amazing this way. So that's the first modification I wanted to do, is like put the sensors. I needed to drill some holes for the cables to basically go through a hole. We're going to be removing the panel, and we're also going to be, let's say, stripping it all, because the controls are freaking horrible. And I always like do, that's one of the motivations I'm always doing, even with a Pandora's box on Pi or on PC, always replacing the freaking joystick, at least like a real Samba joystick. I'm just a big fan of it. So what we're going to be doing is removing this case. We're also not going to be using the case itself, the ribbon cable, everything, it's going out of the window. So when it comes to the configuration, it's interesting to see that they change out a lot through the years, where I've modified a lot of these Street Fighter cabinets throughout the many videos we've made here. And I can tell you that I did see a lot of improvements also when it comes to the connectors and everything else. So what is kind of funny is that we can actually use the original button. So if you don't want to change out the buttons, you don't really need to do that, with the simple reason, if you're going to get yourself like the original Pandora's box harness or cable 3, you can just plug in straight into the original buttons. So we need to use a hammer, because they are using glue. Okay, there we go. And there we go. So we're going to be slapping both of these things. So they're like, I must say that's one of the improvements that they made, like using screws and also hot glue. So let's put everything together. But first I want to show you cable management over here. The holes where all of the cables going through, like everything goes down there. So I think that's absolutely a very cool solution. So the cables needs to be like a little bit testing. Also going to be implementing a very nice 2.1 kit with a subwoofer to get like the best overall audio experience. So testing out the controller. Also want to have like this hub at the front of the side. The speaker, that is something of a different story. I'm going to be using the original speaker. I'm going to be using this on the original amplifier that comes inside of the subwoofer. Yep, this is like one crazy cable mess, but we're going to be putting everything in a nice place. At first I wanted to use one single speaker at the back, but I can tell you this thing utilizes an input, but also have like a separate output for both speakers. So we're going to be using one cable to be soldering on here, and we're going to be using the front, and one we're going to be putting it in the back, but later on I will show you. We can adjust the bass if I want to, but yeah, this is going to be sounding absolutely great. So let's remove all of the buttons and replace them with these concave I've picked up from the arcade shop over here. That's a shop that has almost everything. Unfortunate, by removing it very gently, you can still doing some damage. So what I'm going to be doing is aligning the button so you don't see it. So that is absolutely a great way, but I think like the artwork, but also the plexi is pretty bad quality when it comes to the Arcade1up let's say, pieces of wood. It's quite unfortunate because I really love the artwork itself. Yeah, I don't know if I can even find a replacement when it comes to, let's say, the acrylic, because the acrylic already had a lot of damages. But the buttons, man, the concave buttons, I am very happy with them. And you can see there is a lot of difference, not only in the length, but also when it comes to the overall feel. The overall feel is so much better. You have like separate these micro switches, that is great. So these buttons can actually be modified. We can use different springs, we can use different micro switches, so we can just modify them as you personally wish. I went for the springs with not a lot of tension, with a simple reason because I just have like this nice fast, let's say, pushing the buttons and very nice overall feedback. So one of the things I did notice that I need to align them to a certain position, the symbol of the room that is underneath, where we do have a lot of space, but because of the front wood at the bottom over there, it will give us limited space. So we need to figure out how we're going to be positioning everything perfectly. So that's one of the things that we need to do. So everything is ready to go for the cable harness. I love these cable harnesses for Pandora's Box. It's like easy plug and play. The hub is going to be modified over here. So you can see that this thing is tightened up, so it's not going to be moving away. We can use it for the light guns, but also we can use it for implementing an Xbox 360 controller. So everything has been set up. We're going to be configuring the buttons over here inside of the Pandora's Box. And yeah, this is actually utilizing 8 buttons. I'm not going to be using that. But so far you can see everything is plugged in, ready to go. And let's do a quick overview of the cabinet itself. But this is the final result. The machine has been booted up. Also, where I'm sounding a little bit different because I'm actually switching between microphones. But first, let's talk about the control panel itself. Like I mentioned before, I wanted to have good controls in this build. I went for actually just the concave buttons over here with a very nice touch. You can actually hear the spring. But I can tell you, these have like an amazing overall feedback. But however, when it comes to the joystick, I went for the real Senwas, and I can tell you, I've been playing with a lot of wiggle sticks, but also but I also have been playing with a lot of different kind of models when it comes to Senwa clones, and the Origin Senwas are absolutely supreme. So actually I paid a lot for both of the joysticks, but I can tell you the overall gaming experience is absolutely great. So when it comes to the original acrylic, I went for not like an upgrade whatsoever, with a simple reason is that I think it's kind of cool that you can see that this thing already has been used for some time now. Like there's a little wear and tear, even a little crack over here, because I did notice when doing modifications on the acrylic, this is like absolutely very hard overall acrylic. For compared with the first generation I actually had, there was like very, let's say, different kind of material, resulting that we do have a little bit of a wear and tear over here, but I'm not going to be replacing it anytime soon. Also went for the concave over here, but actually when I went for the tiny buttons, because I've mapped those for the coin. So if you want to implement the coin, that is possible with the arcade games. Just simple white tiny buttons, very cheap. I think they were like leftovers for Pandora's boxes. Nevertheless, so this play is absolutely amazing. I'll give you an example. So actually I love just playing around with this. So simply because you can make a quick load, quick save. I think the last time I actually went into the process of trying to beat some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the freaking Sega. But I think it is absolutely great to just play this game. I just love the overall joystick. I really hate the boss itself because it's really cheap. However, I can do my most without any problem whatsoever. And I think it's just an overall fun experience. I have never seen such a cheap ass boss like this one. I already mentioned, let's say, on the top we're finding the volume control has been neatly actually put in a certain position, so you do actually see it on top, but it's not like really noticeable. You can just really easily adjust it, and the overall quality is great because I'm using the original speaker over here that I mentioned before and added like another speaker inside and a subwoofer. It's maybe a strange combination, but there's actually no speaker hole over here, so we're going to be using one for the left speaker and another one on the inside. But let's do and give a little bit of a sound sample. Let's crank up the volume. And we have the absolutely nice bass when it comes to, let's say, the audio itself. Subwoofer, baby, I love it. Ba, 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 ba. Woo, there we go. But a quick look at the back over here, we can see the hole where the cable is going in. But the way how this is assembled is very nicely. I think we just use a double-sided tape and this stays perfectly, and you can adjust the audio very easily. But let's get into the machine itself. So only thing I did maybe need to improve is having like a magnet so I can just open it up fairly easy. But for now I just need to remove this single Parker and I can actually lift the back out like the original machine. So for the power cable I actually went for just a simple solution. Maybe you can just get yourself like an original plug in there, but I was thinking, why all the trouble and soldering? Just do it like this. So let's remove the single Parker over there and let's open it up. Opening it up is always super easy to do. Okay, so this is what we're getting in the inside. So we did some crazy cable management over there. So yeah, I think it's absolutely cool. One thing I just wanted to show you is how I actually did it. So you can buy these things for cheap. I think you can find them on Amazon or even AliExpress. And what's kind of cool, you can just stick them over there and can make yourself this very nice cable overall construction. You can see everything has been placed very nicely. This is the Pandora's box with the original cable harness going to the cables over there. This is the front. And of course, the reason I actually opened it up is showcasing this is the second speaker. And there we're having the subwoofer using some older Logitech set, because these things are like they're like inexpensive. And when it comes to the power, I actually put this thing in here. We can open it up. You can see all the power supplies. Everything has been neatly tie wrapped. So this is actually the construction in the inside. Let's lift this thing back in. Yep, there we go. And this is how I actually assembled everything in the inside. That brings us to the original hub, because the hub is at the front. And the reason, very simple. If you're going to be unplugging the USB, you can also unplug the power if you don't want to have the solenoid feedback. And you can actually use the front USB for just a controller. And this way, with an X input or an old Xbox 360 controller, we can play our games with a controller. I think that's pretty cool. However, let's get into the menu, because the one thing we're going to be talking about is what this thing makes so ultimate with the retro shooter kit. At the left, the blue one. And at the right we're having the red one. The cables are like insanely long, so what I actually did is like put them in there. That's one thing. And what you can actually do, play your games like that from a very nice overall distance. Of course, one other thing, if you're going to be using the light guns, you can actually power on the LEDs, but actually turning them off, because they can become really hot. There is some passive cooling underneath, but still, if you don't need them, you just shut them off. But yep, I went for the Pandora's Box 10 edition, because this is the more convenient thing to do if you're going to have like a light gun. But let's do a quick overview of the menu and everything. So if you're going to be pressing start, we're going to be having the option to actually have recent, search, alphabetic order, 3D games. So we can actually use it 3 or 4 players. What you can do is like adding 2 controllers and configuring that like that. The light guns, of course, fighting games, action, shooting, sport, puzzle, FBA, MAME. And this thing can play a lot of cool stuff. So it's a little bit outdated. There's only one single game, for example, for the old school, I would almost say arcade, but it's actually the Sega Dreamcast or that almost Wave. Sometimes a couple of games are on those systems and that's it, you know. But the loading times are quite fast. I just love the overall situation when it comes to the Pandora's boxes. However, when it comes to the display, I went for the original one, what I mentioned before, because just of the overall price, if you need to import one, it's going to be quite an expensive situation. And I must say the overall quality of the original display is not bad. So one thing is like when it comes to the overall emulation performance of the Dreamcast, but as you see, it seems to be working fine so far out of the box. But I think if you want to play Dreamcast on higher resolutions, you just need to get yourself a PC. That's one thing for sure. But the performance of the Dreamcast, it's enjoyable. We don't have the crazy glitches going on. So what you can actually do with Pandora's Box, if you have like problems with the console configuration or the gamepad, you can actually go into the gamepad configuration and change stuff like that out. I've been messing with it for some time with playing some PlayStation 1 game, because the buttons are all mapped up. Or you want to add a different controller, you can just do all kinds of cool stuff over here, and I just love it for as it is. So you can even go to the custom mapping. I've been setting up a couple of them for playing some Street Fighter or in Tekken, so we actually have like the right overall configuration. Of course we can mess around with the software itself, but I don't want to. We're just going to be leaving it as it is for this game. And with the Sama joystick, this is such an overall joy to play. But also they fixed the audio situation. No input delay with anything so far, like input, but also when it comes to playing the games. So let's see if I mapped it like it should be. Let's see, we have a button here, button there. See, that was the problem. Let's see, let's go to the console configuration. Let's go to button mapping, I think it was version number 2. Loading, loading. Okay, it has been set to custom mapping 2. Okay, let's go. Nope, still not like it's supposed to be. So, you know, this is one of the things. It's interesting. It's really interesting that this situation. Oh, yeah, see, it's already correct. Okay, no, that's like it's supposed to. Of course, let's try to play some light gun games because this is one of the cool features. So what we're going to be doing is powering on the LEDs over here. I accidentally booted up a game because pressing the shooting button actually activates the game. Let's go. We can also, if I think it's correctly, can also navigate with the joystick over here. It's not like the most convenient thing. So recently, sorry, wrong button. Okay.
Bought them in the specialist shop.
Can we skip the shit? Thank you. The Corsa has been disabled, so I think it's so much more fun actually. The lights over here. And despite we're only having 2 sensors, it's really an overall fun experience for just playing these games. But I do realize what I'm going to be needing to do is moving the camera, because you can see that the overall viewing angle is not the best on this freaking thing. That's going to be better. But if you're going to be standing in front of it, it's not going to be a problem whatsoever. The feedback of the first generation retro shooter is not the best. You can feel the spring in the inside, but you know, it's absolutely good enough for this particular arcade. Haha! Woo! Come on! Pop. Love that you can use the button at the side for reloading. Oh, I'm getting the disc. Bring it on. Woo! I'm going to stop you, my friend. Let's go. And what you can actually do is also implementing the pedal if you want to play the original, because that is supported by the retro shooter kit itself. Just going to using the button. Oh, this plays so much differently than that the other Thomas Wave emulator. Because this is actually the time crisis for the PlayStation 1. So when it comes for the ultimate Arcade1up, this is the best mod I've ever done. And I can tell you, I am super happy with what it actually turned out with the audio and everything else, because this is absolutely a lot of fun to play. When I actually started this project and making this finished video, I really really enjoying myself for weeks with this machine itself. The display itself is not the best one out there, but still, it's enjoyable. Or you're going to be having some really crazy viewing angle, then it's going to be a little bit worse.